This is the weigh-in podcast, and on this week's weigh-in, on this week's weigh-in, what we are gonna go over, and I'm gonna go over, is the Brandon Slay of PRTC, the Prince. Not the Prince, but the Pennsylvania Regional Training Center is moving on. So there's a lot to unpack there moving forward. But this is the weigh-in by Benoit Chestnut and Normally Sebastian Romero. But we'll return to our regularly scheduled program soon. So just getting that out of the way. And then we're going to go with some other news around the wrestling world and the transfer world. The draft, I so call it. But if, we jump into this week's episode, one of the big news things is that PRTC, Brandon Slay has been there for a long time. 9 years. Now he's out. So when we talk about, the all intentions of college wrestling, the all intents of college wrestling, when we talk about that, the all intent, the moving on or the beating KO, I think the grass is a little more greener than we thought. And I say this because if you all don't know, Braden Davis of Penn State University was allegedly got in an altercation at a frat house. So with that, that's just the utmost. With that right there, you look at, okay, that's a guy that may have to be replaced. The intentions here is Kill may excuse him from the team, and you look at that and you say, okay, it is what it is. When things happen, it is what it is. And I think in all terms and tenses, I think that's been everybody's goal for a long time, is the chasing Kale. Ohio State was able to get a title one year. Iowa was able to get a title. There were some other programs that, were able to get a title, I believe, But when you look at this, as we talked on here before, what does Brandon Slay do for that? What does he do? Well, first off, if there is any head coaching roles that are up and out there, he'll be into consideration. And the big question we have to ask ourselves is what happens with Jordan Burroughs? Because Jordan Burroughs was over there for that. So do we think Jordan Burroughs is going to be on the move? Because now they have to replace that. So there's going to be some shakeups left and right around. I wonder if we see him take the UNI job, I think it's the northern Iowa, I believe, UNI, northern Iowa. I wonder because remember, UNI's coach was headed to Okie State. So we wonder if he may be in line to try to take that UNI job. That's possible. So when you look at yep, University of Northern Iowa. I just wanted to get that correct before moving forward. So the UNI job, we already pre-announced that UNI job was done. So, UNI's guy is headed to Okie, Lee Roper. And if you think about it, is he going to take the UNI job, or is he going to hold out assistant coach to possibly get a head coaching gig? Because that's a guy that I think is ready for a head coaching gig. When you look at the talented success of that room, you know, what was that room? You look at it very well. I mean, aside from, some of the guys that left, but you understand that, there was outstanding, work done with Jordan Burroughs. When you look at Burroughs, trying to get back to being on a, trying to get back to being on an Olympic team, and you look at a senior world level team and all of that. With that being said, with all that going on, just to be able to work with such an athlete like Jordan Burroughs, and there were many more that were over there, that you look at that and you say, okay, he's done very well with what's going on over there. What is the next steps? Now, there was a full podcast up on Bashmania where he sat down with them to break it all down, but we're just kind of looking at the haves and was not the have and was nots here. So we're kind of just looking at some stuff like that. Is it, and I like it because the report goes Brandon Slay moving on from PRTC. It doesn't say retiring from, which means there is a moving forward there. So the question is whether it's that UNI job that opened up. The question will be where. At where. At where that is a really good chance to take on. And the question is, will we see Jordan Burroughs stay at PRTC, or will we see Jordan move to another regional training center to be closer to New Jersey? In a sense, I mean, in Philly, you're fairly close to New Jersey, but he runs the club, and he might want to take more of a bigger approach on the club. I mean, it's pretty big now, so you say that's a great choice, but it could be possible he might, want to. And don't get me wrong, I have no idea where Jordan Burroughs lives at all. So for all intentions while filming, he could be staying in New Jersey for all I know. But we're just saying in terms of, RTCs in Philly and all of that. And, when you look at that and you put that there and you say, okay, the guy that ran that is now saying he's leaving. Will we see Jordan possibly leave as well? But the true testament here, you say to yourselves is there another strong RTC that will suit Jordan's area? Because where the RTC is that South Jersey. It's closer towards that south. So you wonder, I mean, where Philly's like lower Jersey, that's south. So you wonder if that plays any effect into the decision making of Jordan Burroughs. Because I say that because you look at what role and what effect will it have, because Jordan Burroughs got a good thing running with that academy that he does. He's got a really good thing going, and you wonder if that's gonna take any effect. So when we come here and we'll break it down, you got the All I See Is Gold Academy, that's Jordan Burroughs his academy. So you look at, okay, when we go ahead and get a little, so when you take a look at that, his classes, in all intentions, I believe, are filling up pretty nicely. He's got them filling up. I mean, can't blame him. Jordan Burroughs has got a nice resume enough to say, hey, that's a room you want to be in. That is a room you want to be in. So when we look at when we look at where are they? So in terms of location, a lot of times you're seeing a lot of it is being ran out of that Collingswood wrestling room. That Collingswood wrestling room. From what videos can show, it's a decent sized room. Yep, that Collingswood wrestling room. So when you look at that, that's a decent sized room. That's a decent sized room when you look at that. Well, that's okay. That's pretty solid enough that you'll understand why Jordan's using that room. So I can understand that. So let's go ahead and let's get it down here. So when you look at Collingswood High School in regards to PRTC, 21 minutes. 21 minutes. Super close. So that tells us already right there that he's keeping everything close knitted here. And there's nothing wrong with that, but with the level of Brandon Slay, will you see some changes to the routine? Because you got some good athletes over there at the PRTC. So not just anybody can go take it over. Now, this isn't to be mistaken. Nobody else, amongst the board, or when I say board, I mean, inside that coaching staff, assistants, all we know is just the director has left. That doesn't always mean that is going to be a huge change of culture, but you know, sometimes in some situations at all, it makes a difference. So with that right there, we got that right there. So that's something that you know that us as Wayne, we're gonna keep an eye out for. The news change. Is Jordan still gonna be over there? Will we see a change? Possibly. Will we see a change? And there's no way to know if we will or will not. There's no way to know. Only time will tell. But you can tell he's got a good thing going. He's got a good thing going. You know, he's got a lot of them scrapping hard, and I think he's got all good intentions of a lot of those guys getting it done. It's a good club, so if we go on about Jordan's club, it's endless. It's endless what goes on. It's endless. It's endless. So, but, at the all ill intention, we'll continue to break that down. So when you look at what goes on and why, Jordan's move to the club world is a, I mean, it's big. He's doing something over there. We got Jordan Burroughs. He's one of the runners. You got Lucas Renvino. You got Tyler Bergen. So, there's not a bunch of them over there, but I don't think it takes, a mountain's worth of a coaching staff to build. Sometimes, and I say this because he's got a good thing running over there. You know, some of your smartest, I would say, best coaches, best, were not NCAA legends. And I say this because when you look at the New Jersey coaching tree, there's quite some coaches out there that, they're really great coaches, but when you look at what they were in college, high school they were great. What they were in college, it doesn't show for much, but it doesn't matter because some of your best coaches didn't always have the best college careers. And I believe that because there are so many that, when you look at them, not some, you look at it, the best coaches don't all have to be okay, they were Division I national champs, and that's something to be said. Everybody, not even Jordan Burroughs, was a two-time NCAA champ and got the Hodge. Now I understand many of you would say, well, that's a big distinction, you know, and the times Jordan Burroughs, won the the national, you had guys like Brett Metcalf, you had some solid groups going out there. You had some solid wrestling groups out there when Jordan, got his titles. And when you look at those groups, those are some memorable groups. You know, I'm pretty sure all wrestling fans, if you have not, are everybody knows about the backflip shove, as I call it. That's just one thing to look at. So you wonder if there will be changes. Um, I don't think we'll see any changes. I don't. The question we ask ourselves is if will there be any, but I don't. I really don't. I don't. So with that being said, we're gonna jump into one more thing, the happenings. Ethan Styles, I think I might have already mentioned this probably last week, maybe. Maybe. Ethan Styles transferred to Ohio State. So that's a good draft pickup, as I call it. Now here's huge. Here's a huge 3-time D3 Natty champ, Mazoma ND to Iowa City. Let's let's break that down. Let's break it down for you boys. Let's break it for fans, I should say. Let's break it down for you fans. Let's break it down. Well, in one case, this may be really great for Iowa. In other cases, it may not. He's a 3-time D3 champion, which means you got maybe a year left of eligibility. So you could burn that red shirt his first year at D1, burn the red shirt, then wrestle. It's an option. But he's thinking, okay, I'm a 3-time national D3 champ. I'm going to come at the Division I level. Well, listen, I'm one for always biting my words. you could end up being a Division One All-American. I'm not going to say national champ because let's be honest. Let's kind of get this going here. That 197. I think we've talked about this before. That 197 is a tough weight class. But there is a lot. There's a lot to be said. So he was the Pan Am champ. So I give him some credit, and I do believe he can be an All American at the Division One level. I really do. You know, I'm not gonna say he can't be an All American. I do believe he's gonna All American. But to say he's gonna be a national champ is just a big. It's a big distinction to say that. Hey, well, he's gonna be a national champ. I don't wanna say more than I can because I don't want to speak any one way or another way. This is the way it is. So you look at the Natty champ 97 was Stephen Buchanan. He beat Josh Barr of Penn State. Now, with that being said, I believe, but I'm gonna double check this before we break it down. So as I break it down in a sense, as we're gonna break it down. So as I'm gonna get you the real work here. Let's get that work here. We're gonna get that work going. So this is how you fact check yourself. Okay, so he's a graduate. He's a graduate. So to put that down to where it is, he's done. So yeah, he could take over at 97, but 97 was looking stacked. I felt like, I mean, I won't say I'll return that. I won't say stacked, but it was looking good. Let's see if I could go ahead and pull up some of the best. So let me see. Right. Yep. That's what I thought. So that's that AJ Ferrari bracket. He's at North Carolina now. I do all intentions believe that is he's going to natty champ out. So now, if give me a second, if Ender gets a chance, 97 is not going to be that weight. I mean, it probably is the most open weight, and I mean that by it's not really dominated by one person, but I don't think it's gonna go the way you think. 84 is wide open. Starachi's done. Had a great career, amazing one. Put down as an NCAA legend. You got some guys now. You got some guys now. So let's go ahead and we're gonna continue to break. We're gonna continue to break it down. And as we do that, we're gonna check something real quick. We're gonna check something here. So that was that Parker Tech Tyson weight at that 184. So that's possible, but there's some, and you know what? When we look at that 184, to take a look, you got Dustin Plott, but Dustin Plott he was a senior, he's done. So you look at that 80, that I think if there's more of an open weight class, it's that 84, because AJ Ferrari, nothing wrong with Cal Baptist, but it's going to be some solid coaching at Tar Heel Country. So that's what I'm going to call it, Tar Heel Country at UNC. It's going to be some good coaching. Now, another one that might you don't want to go heavyweight. I mean, it's possible, but that's wide open too. As we all learned, down goes Gable. So there's that. Um, you know, there's that. Wiskowski announced retirement. There's a little bit of, I mean, there's not much to say there, but that entered to that Mazoma entered to Iowa. That surprised me. 3-time national champ don't want to cap out and become a 4-timer. Hey, I mean, but this is a really good wrestler. So and there's a reason why. If it was anybody else that had done this, when you look at the resume, I wouldn't have said they're going to be an All-American. And when I say All-American, I see him. I really do. Depending on how he's able to adjust to the competition, depending on what he does. If he wrestles straight this year, I see him in top. I want to say I see him in top 5, top 6. If he takes that year, burns the red shirt, then I see him. I see him within top 4. I really do, because this is a really great wrestler. And when you he's already really good, and you're going to put him with those brands, he's going to learn. He's going to learn. They have a knack for taking good talent, turning good talent, but with everything going on, I'm not surprised to see something like this, because I want to say yes, it's a good experiment, but it's not. If this 3-time D3 national champ becomes an All-American at the Division I level, it's going to wonder the question from a lot of different Division III wrestlers. Okay, if I'm a 2-time natty champ, am I good enough to go spend my next 2 at Penn State? I mean, not at Penn State, but my next 2 in D1. I don't think everybody's good to be doing something like this. I think it's just only for somebody like him who's really good. Really good. He's really good, but you leave the reign of another national title out with what's going on. So um, when you look at that, that's something to be said. That's one thing to break it down. You know, so that's something real nice. So with that being said, this week's Takedown Thursdays episode. Like, comment, subscribe, share. With that being said, this is the weigh-in by Benoit Chestnut and normally Sebastian Romero, but we will return to our regularly scheduled program soon. So with that, this is the weigh-in.
The weigh-in,